The Galactic War Council was full of noise. Loud alien voices argued, laughed, and made jokes. Every species in the room looked strange to human eyes. Some had scales, others had metal skin, and a few floated instead of walked. But all of them had one thing in common: they did not respect humans. Earth's representatives stood near the edge of the giant round hall. Behind them floated a hologram showing Earth's single warship, ISS TI-10FL. It looked old, slow, outdated. The Varuan. Commander, a tall alien with blue armor and 6 eyes, pointed at the hologram and laughed. "This is the mighty Earth's contribution to the war. Flying coffin?" More laughter followed. Even the Council's neutral AI bots buzzed with soft chuckles. The human officer, Commander Raina Holt, did not reply. She just stared at the projection with a calm face. Another alien, this one from the Blaric species, waved his tentacles and said, "Perhaps Earth wants to lose on purpose? One ship? Against the swarm? You must be joking." General Tarov, another human, stepped forward. His voice was cold. "We do not joke. Titanfall is ready for war." The room fell silent for a moment. Then louder laughter echoed off the walls. Outside, the Council station, the real ISS Titanfall, floated in space. From a distance, it looked like a standard cruiser. Gray armor, 2 rear engines, a single cannon on top. But inside, the ship was not normal. The bridge was dark, filled with soft blue lights and humming machines. No one spoke loudly here. The crew wore black suits with strange symbols. Their eyes had a glow, part natural, part cybernetic. They were not regular soldiers. They were something different. Captain Mira Voss stood in front of the command table. Her voice was soft but firm. "Coordinates locked. Is the cloak holding?" "Yes." "Captain," replied the AI, "we are invisible to all sensors." Titanfall had already activated its stealth systems. While the Council argued and laughed, the ship had quietly left its docking bay. No one had noticed. A young crew member whispered, "Do they really think we're weak?" Mira looked at him. "Let them think that. That's how we win." Back in the Council chamber, the laughter slowed down. A Council AI floated to the center and projected a galactic map, showed the swarm's fleet moving closer to the central planets. The swarm was powerful, deadly. They had already destroyed 3 advanced civilizations. Now, they were heading toward the core systems where Earth was. The AI spoke in a flat voice. "We need to assign fleets to defend Zone 37. Earth has volunteered to take it alone." Another round of surprise filled the room. "Alone," hissed a Charon commander. "With that ship?" General Tarov nodded. "That's all we need." The Varun commander stepped forward again. "Earth wants to be a hero. Fine. Let them die like one." Raina Holt's eyes narrowed, but she said nothing. Hours later, in deep space, the swarm fleet entered Zone 37. Hundreds of bioships. Massive creatures with armor harder than metal. They moved fast, growing stronger the closer they got to their prey. Suddenly, one of the lead swarm ships exploded. No sound, no warning, just a burst of light and then nothing. Then another ship went dark. Another. The swarm fleet slowed. Confused, their sensors saw nothing. Then a strange signal appeared on their screens. Just 3 words. "Arrival complete. To begin cleansing." Panic spread through the swarm. Inside the Titanfall, Captain Mira gave her next order. "Target next. Wave. Use silent charge. Leave no survivors." One by one, the monsters fell. On the Galactic Council screen, red lights started blinking. The swarm fleet was being destroyed. No one knew how. No one understood what was happening. Commander Raina allowed herself a small smile. She turned to the Varun commander. "Still think it's a coffin?" The alien said nothing. In the darkness of space, Titanfall moved like a shadow. No one saw it, no one heard it. But everyone would remember its name. The Varuan Defense Station floated quietly near the edge of Zone 37. Its scanners stretched across thousands of kilometers. Patrol ships circled nearby. All seemed calm. Then one by one, the patrol ships disappeared. No explosions. No alerts. Just dash gone. Inside the station, alarms blared. Red lights flashed. A young Varuan officer shouted, "We lost contact with patrols for 6 and 9. His commander, Admiral Korak, growled, "Impossible. Swarm doesn't cloak." Before the officer could answer, a soft mechanical voice whispered through every speaker in the station, "Titanfall." The word echoed like a ghost, then silence. Deep in the darkness of space, the ISS Titanfall hovered behind a dead moon. Its engines were cold, invisible. Silent, Captain Mira Voss stood on the bridge, watching data scroll across the screen. All targets eliminated. No survivors. Still no response from the Council, the AI reported. She nodded. They'll respond soon. They'll have no choice. Lieutenant Bren, a tall man with cybernetic arms, spoke next. That station detected us for a second. I killed the link. Good, Mira replied. Keep the signal minimal. Our silence is our weapon. They were not just fighting the swarm, they were sending a message to the whole galaxy. Flashback, years ago. During Earth's early talks with the Galactic Council, human ships were tested against alien simulators. They lost. Every time, the aliens laughed. You rely on instinct and rage. We use logic and technology. So, Earth changed the plan. They stopped copying alien tech. They built their own. Titanfall was the first of its kind, a fusion of human anger, artificial intelligence, and ghost warfare. The crew had been trained in isolation. Inside simulations no alien mind could survive. Now they were proving the galaxy wrong. The Varuan station prepared to fight. Fighters launched into space, scanning blindly. Then a strange thing happened. The power died. All screens went black. Inside the darkness, officers screamed. Reboot systems? Get the lights back? Emergency backup kicked in just in time for them to see their own weapons turning inward. The station's defense cannons fired, not at Titanfall, but at their own hangars. From a distance, Captain Mira watched a eye worm successful, the ship's AI said calmly. They will destroy themselves in 3, 2, 1. A huge explosion bloomed in space. Station broke into pieces, drifting in silence. Back at the Galactic Council headquarters, a single report appeared on their security system. Varuan outpost destroyed. Cause unknown. Enemy presence unconfirmed. The Council was confused. The swarm had never attacked that sector. Commander Raina Holt, still watching silently, whispered to herself. They still don't know. Good. On the Titanfall, the crew gathered on the lower deck. Small room with metal walls and a glowing table in the middle. Captain Mira placed her hand on the table. You all know the plan. Phase 2 begins now. The galaxy wanted to test us. We will show them what happens when you test a cornered species. Lieutenant Bren grinned. Let's make the next one louder. Mira shook her head. Not yet. Let them fear the silence first. A few hours later, in another sector, a swarm carrier ship received a message. It wasn't in their language. It was human code. It said, "This is Titanfall. Leave now, or be erased." The aliens laughed until their engines failed, until their weapons jammed, until their own navigation drove them into a black sun. The last thing they heard was a human voice, calm and cold. Limit reached. Then dash nothing. Across the galaxy, whispers started spreading. Some said the swarm was retreating. Others said a new human weapon was loose, but no one had proof. No footage, no survivors. Only one name repeated again and again in hushed tones. Titanfall. And still, it had not spoken directly to the Council. Because Titanfall didn't need to talk. Its silence was louder than any weapon. Across the galaxy, screens turned black. Stations, ships, cities everywhere. The feed cut out at the same time. Even secured military channels stopped working. Every race, every species looked up in confusion. Then a single broadcast began. A black screen faded into view, and a human figure stood in the center. It was Captain Myra Voss. Her face was calm, her uniform dark. Behind her, the faint outline of Titanfall could be seen in low light, like a shadow waiting to strike. She spoke in a cold, quiet voice that somehow echoed in every language across the galaxy. We were called weak, outdated, primitive. You laughed at our limits? She stepped forward. Her voice grew sharper. You thought one ship was a joke? You threw us into this war as bait? You planned for us to die. But now, we write the rules. The background changed. A silent video played behind her footage of swarm fleets destroyed, command stations crumbling, dreadnoughts ripped in half. No sound, just destruction. You wanted us gone? So we came back stronger, smarter, deadlier. Then her eyes narrowed. You have two choices now. Stand beside us, or stay in our way. The screen went black. Then one final word appeared. Tida. In the swarm's main fortress world. Panic followed. Admirals screamed. Officers shouted conflicting orders. This was a threat. No, this was a declaration of war. No, it's worse. It's a warning. Even the Swarm Queen, a creature that hadn't spoken in centuries, hissed a single word from her massive throne. Fear. Back at the Galactic Council, the reaction was chaos. How did they hijack our secure channels? Asked one furious alien. Another barked. That was an invasion of information space. But Commander Raina Holt calmly sipped her drink. We told you, she said softly. You never listened. The silence in the chamber was louder than shouting. On board Titanfall. The crew reviewed the reaction. Lieutenant Bren smirked. So, I think they got the message, Shay added. You saw their faces. Some of them looked ready to surrender right now. Mira stayed quiet, watching the feedback pouring in from intercepted galactic feeds. Good, she finally said. But we're not done. Flashback Titanfall's original briefing room 3 years earlier. Earth's top generals sat in a dark, silent room. The room had no windows, just a single screen showing a simple message. Project Titanfall, final option, a general. Asked, what if the galaxy turns against us after this? The lead scientist replied, then they'll face something they've never seen. Another whispered, will the crew survive? The scientist answered, we didn't build Titanfall for survival. We built it for memory, so that no one ever forgets what happens when you push humanity too far. Now, Titanfall had achieved that goal. Across multiple systems, swarm forces began to retreat. Civilian populations rioted. Several allied species sent private messages to Earth, begging for talks, treaties, or even surrender. The galaxy had finally learned something important. It wasn't about the size of the fleet. It was about the will behind it. On a border planet, a group of children watched the Titanfall broadcast on a broken old screen. One child with wide green eyes asked Mom, are the humans monsters? The mother hugged her child tightly and whispered, no, they're what monsters are afraid of. But not everyone planned to kneel, far in the dark zones of the galaxy. The last of the ancient empires watched the broadcast in silence. They didn't laugh. They didn't speak instead. They began to activate old weapons, buried deep inside asteroid vaults and abandoned war worlds. Titanfall had woken something even older than fear, but Mira knew this might happen. On the bridge of Titanfall, Mira looked at the map. New red lights began to appear. Unknown signals. Ancient signatures, the AI said. Enemy movement detected in Zone 94. These are not swarm ships. Mira nodded. So the old gods have noticed us too, Lieutenant Bren asked. What now, Captain? She turned, slow and serious. Now, we remind them why humanity survived this long. The council hall was no longer filled with laughter. No more jokes about primitive humans. No more mocking Earth's past. Now, there was only tension. The Galactic Council sat in silence as the Earth representative entered. It wasn't Commander Raina Holt this time. It was General Kai Draven, a cold man with silver eyes and a scar that stretched across his cheek like a lightning bolt. He had never spoken in public before. No one even knew his rank. Until now. He stepped to the center of the hall and said only one thing. You have one decision left. Be our allies, or be our next demonstration. Amira watched the live feed from Titanfall's bridge. She didn't smile, or didn't celebrate her. Hands were folded behind her back as the galaxy faced the truth. Earth was no longer begging for a seat at the table. It now built the table. Status on responses. She asked the AI. The AI's voice echoed across the silent command deck. 7 minor races have requested alliance. 3 have offered tribute. 2 empires are mobilizing fleets. Hostile. Shay looked up from her screen. Let me guess. Varun and the Thal Syndicate. Correct, the AI replied. Mira nodded. Then it's time we test the Thal's pride. In orbit above Thal Prime, the Thal High Chancellor stood on a balcony, staring at the stars. Beside him hovered a military commander. We must act, Chancellor. Earth is forcing the galaxy to kneel. The Chancellor clenched his jaw. We are not slaves. We're rulers. We had faster-than-light drives before humans discovered electricity. But Titanfall destroyed 4 fleets. The Chancellor turned slowly. Then we send 5. They sent 6 full fleets toward Earth space, each carrying thousands of ships. But by the time they reached Sector 17, they found nothing. No defense, no enemy, just an empty field of debris and a single floating satellite. On it, one line blinked. We told you. Allies or ashes. Back at the Galactic Council, races began lining up. One by one, species signed new treaties with Earth. Some came in peace, asking for trade. Others arrived in fear, offering resources, soldiers, even planets. But one alien, tall golden-eyed Lethera stood and asked a question none dared speak aloud. If we join you, do we remain equal? Or do we become your subjects? General Kai Draven didn't flinch. You stay equal if you earn it. You follow us if you don't. And just like that, the galaxy knew. Earth wasn't offering peace. It was offering leadership. On Titanfall, the crew sat in a rare moment of rest. Mira walked through the dim halls, checking in on her people. In the mess hall, Lieutenant Bryn leaned back in his chair. We're getting offers from everywhere now. Ships, tech, entire moons. Even an alien species wants to send us a shrine. Added, some of them think we're gods. Mira shook her head. No, we're what happens when gods ignore us for too long. Flashback Titanfall's final construction. Engineers worked in silence as the final weapon systems were locked in place. Massive anti-gravity cores, data cloaks. Silent rail cannons. One scientist stood beside the AI core and whispered, We're built not to serve Earth, but to warn the universe. AI had simply replied, warning delivered. Now, with enemies falling and alliances forming, Earth built more. Titanfall was no longer alone. 2 more ships were launched from Mars dry dock, Leviathan and Ironwake. Both carried improved AI human hybrid crews and weapons banned by Galactic law. The Council protested, of course, but Myra had already given the answer. Earth follows its own laws now. And deep in the corners of space, hidden enemies watched. The Varun Empire was not done. They were silent, but not gone. A secret meeting was held inside an asteroid fortress. Old leaders, long thought dead, appeared in holograms. One whispered, Humanity was never supposed to rise. Another replied, Then we burn their wings, before they fly too close to the sun. Titanfall's sensors picked up faint signals from the dark sector's ancient tech. Weapons with no known power sources. Shay tapped her console. Varun are moving. Looks like they're preparing something big. Mira stared at the blinking lights. Let them prepare, she said. We'll give them something they'll never forget. She turned toward the stars, eyes cold as steel. They thought the message was a warning, she whispered. But it was only the beginning. A large alien auditorium buzzed with noise. War leaders, scientists, and high-ranking strategists from across the galaxy had gathered to study one thing: human warfare. On the main screen, a video played ancient Earth footage, explosions, tanks, trenches, soldiers screaming as they ran through fire and smoke. One alien scientist, covered in green scales, scoffed. They fought like animals. No structure, No advanced coordination. The Varuan admiral grinned. Primitive chaos. They called it World War? That's not strategy. That's madness. Another alien added, they still build ships with metal. No organic flyers, no neural weapons. Their minds are slow, their tools outdated. Suddenly the screen flickered. A human voice cut through the noise. It was an old recording. It's one line. Now imagine what happens. When we stop holding back, the room fell quiet. On board the ISS Titanfall, Captain Mira watched the same footage from her personal chamber. She wasn't watching to learn. She was remembering. Humanity didn't evolve through comfort. It evolved through pain, through loss, through desperation. That was the secret the galaxy never understood. Humans didn't fight to win. They fought because losing was never an option. Titanfall continued moving through deep space, behind enemy lines. It remained undetected. Inside the ship, the AI displayed the next list of targets: swarm breeding station, civilian transport hub, command relay base. Lieutenant Bren frowned. That's a civilian hub. Should we strike it? Myra stared. At the screen, the swarm uses civilians as shields. We show no mercy. They didn't when they burned our colonies. Another crew member, a quiet woman named Shay, added, we warned them. We gave them a chance. Mira nodded. Then we erased them. Flashback years earlier. At Earth's hidden military lab, a small group of human scientists and generals stood around a prototype. Titanfall's model was still raw wires, broken armor plates, and half-complete weapons, one general said. They'll laugh at us, the lead engineer replied. Good, let them. By the time they realize what we've built, they'll already be ash. Instead of copying alien weapons, humans created something uniquely human. Weapons that didn't rely on energy cores but on brute force and nuclear rage. Shields that absorbed, then reflected directed energy. Code-based AI that could evolve during battle, unpredictable and free. Most importantly, a crew handpicked from Earth's darkest battlefields, survivors, fighters. Titanfall was more than a ship. It was revenge with an engine, in the present. A massive swarm command relay floated near a dying star. It was protected by 24 escort ships and 2 heavy dreadnoughts. Then the shadows moved. Titanfall appeared from behind the stars. Corona shielded. By magnetic flares, no warning, no signal, just pure fury. It launched 3 projectiles, old Earth-style torpedoes, slow and heavy. The swarm laughed. Obsolete weapons. Then the torpedoes split. Hundreds of tiny shards broke off, crawling into the ship's systems. Not to explode, but to hijack. Suddenly, swarm ships turned on each other. Didn't know who the enemy was anymore. Titanfall fired its main cannon, a directed kinetic railgun. The command relay was hit. It didn't explode. It collapsed, crushed inwards by its own artificial gravity. Silence followed. Back at the Galactic Council, panic began to grow. A council guard entered the chamber. Zone 37 command relay destroyed. Total loss. Survivors, none. Swarm attack, the head counselor asked. The guard hesitated. No swarm ships were in the area. A Varuan technician pulled up a recording. Only one thing appeared on the logs before the blackout. Titanfall cleansing complete, the room shook with silence. Later that day, a secret meeting was called. Only high-level council members were invited. A nervous insectoid leader whispered, the humans lied. They said it was just one ship. One test. Another added, if they can do this with a prototype, what else do they have? Commander Raina Holt, now Earth's silent representative on the council, stood at the back. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. She had warned them before. They had laughed now. They only stared in fear. On the Titanfall, the stars drifted by. Mira stood alone in the observation deck. She whispered, they wanted to see what we're capable of. So now they will, the AI responded quietly. Next target locked. Shall we proceed? Mira gave the order without blinking. Let them feel history, echo by echo. Admiral Drax stood in front of a giant tactical map inside the swarm's central war chamber. Dozens of red dots blinked across the holoscreen, showing the positions of their fleets. Around him, elite commanders from across the swarm empire watched carefully. Everything looked perfect. Ships in tight formations, stronghold stations guarding major paths, fighter squadrons flying in organized circles. "It is a perfect wall," said Drax. "No enemy can pass, not even light." But then, something strange happened. A new red mark appeared in the center of the formation, not near the edge, not on the border, but inside their fleet. One of the officers growled, "What ship is that?" Another officer clicked on the marker. The system showed no data, no identity, no broadcast signal, just static. And then, the lights in the war chamber flickered, far away in the black silence between stars. Titanfall hovered like a ghost. It didn't announce itself. It didn't aim slowly. It simply fired. A single round, a heavy spike of dense tungsten, left its railgun at incredible speed. The round flew through space, slicing through two enemy cruisers like paper before the swarm could even react. Their own ships turned against each other again, systems hacked from the inside. Thanks to Titanfall's earlier viruses, the fleet screamed in confusion. From the bridge of Titanfall, Captain Mira calmly watched the chaos. "They're blind. They don't know where we are." Lieutenant Bren laughed softly. "They built a perfect wall, but forgot to lock the door." Back inside the swarm's war chamber, alarms began to sound. Section 7 destroyed. No visual on attacker. To dreadnoughts down. Repeat, they're gone. Admiral Drax shouted, "Get me visuals. Sensors. Deploy scouts." But it was too late. Every scout they sent was already gone, destroyed before they could send back a signal. Then, from every screen in the war room, a voice played. Calm. Female. Human. "This is Captain Mira Voss of the ISS Titanfall. You laughed at humanity. Mocked our limits. You left us behind. Now, you return the favor." And then silence, no trace of the signal, nothing to track. At the Galactic Council, chaos had started to spread. News of the disappearing swarm fleet reached even the inner planets. One council member yelled, "We should have never sent humans into the war. They've become uncontrollable." Another shouted, "We need to stop them before they go further. We have no defense against that ship." Earth's representative, Commander Raina Holt, stood again. This time, she spoke. "You wanted us to die in this war. You thought one ship would break us. Instead, that ship broke you." A hackery diplomat hissed, "Is this a threat?" Raina simply said, "No, it's history being written." On Titanfall, the AI reported, "All enemy ships in Sector Delta neutralized. No survivors, fleet records wiped." Mira turned to her crew. "They'll try to find us. They'll search everywhere." Shay, her calm and quiet weapons officer, smiled. "Let them search. The more they panic, the more they expose themselves." "Fear is a weapon," Myra said. "And now we hold it." She walked to the observation window. Dozens of swarm ships drifted, destroyed, burning in space without a single trace of their attacker's location. In a last effort, Swarm Empire activated its main command AI, a planet-sized network of intelligence. Designed to process war across galaxies, the AI analyzed thousands of reports. It found no pattern, no location, no survivors, only one repeating variable in every destroyed fleet: Tina fell. The AI sent a simple warning to all swarm commanders: avoid direct engagement with human vessel Titanfall till further notice. Treat as Class Omega threat. Unpredictable, unstoppable, unknown. Don't. In the shadows of deep space, Mira gave her next command. Next move, we strike a symbolic target. Something they never expect a fleet leader, a core planet, a heart. Lieutenant Bren asked, "Message or no message?" Mira didn't blink. No message, just action. The crew nodded, and the engines of Titanfall lit up again, just long enough to jump across the stars. Then, once again, the ship vanished. End of Part 4. The Varuan Empire had vanished from public view. No messages, no, or declarations. Just silence. But Earth's command knew better. Silence was a sign, and silence to humanity always meant preparation for war, far beyond the edge of the known systems. Hidden inside a black dwarf star cluster, the Varuan unveiled their final weapon, a massive battle station in times. The size of Titanfall, powered by a dark matter core, equipped with a sun-killer cannon, capable of wiping out entire star systems. In one shot, the Varuan called it Judgment. They didn't plan to destroy Titanfall. They planned to destroy Earth itself. Inside the war room of Titanfall, Shay read the intercepted message aloud. Judgment has moved into position. Weapon charging. Countdown. For hours. Mira stood still. Is the Council aware? Lieutenant Brent answered. They think it's just a bluff? They're arguing over peace deals while Earth is about to be turned into ash. Mira looked toward the stars. Then we'll handle this ourselves. Like we always do. On Earth, life continued. People laughed, worked, lived, not knowing that a weapon beyond imagination was about to end everything. But one person knew. General Kaidravan stood on Earth's lunar base staring through a telescope aimed at the dark. Clustered, he spoke into a secure channel. Mira, if you fail, Earth dies. Her voice came back without fear. Then it's good failure isn't in our nature. The countdown continued. 3 hours, 2 hours, Judgment prepared to fire. The energy levels rose beyond known science. Even Titanfall couldn't match its power head-on. And then, just minutes before the shot, the entire station shook. Lights flickered, alarms screamed, inside the Varuan command room. Officers shouted, "We're under attack." But there was nothing on sensors, no ships, no signals. Only one strange error message on every screen. Hello again. Titanfall had jumped inside the station's outer defense ring using a one-time stealth warp, a dangerous move that risked tearing the ship apart. They did it anyway. Inside the bridge, Mira barked orders. Target their power relay. We hit. The core from the inside. Direct fire won't work. Surgical strikes only. Shay launched precision torpedoes into ventilation shafts. Bren activated gravity disruptors. Suddenly, Judgment's massive weapon arm collapsed under its own weight. Direct. Hit, Shay confirmed. Their gun is down. But it wasn't over. The Varuan activated the station's emergency AI. Their secondary weapon came online, a quantum imploder. It's designed to crush matter on a molecular level. The station turned, fired, and for a moment, Titanfall disappeared. Nothing remained on sensors. The Varuan cheered, but their joy didn't last long, because then, the stars around them began to warp, and Titanfall reappeared above the station glowing. It's damaged, but still alive. Emergency cloak reboot successful, EI said calmly. Mira's voice followed. You tried to erase us. Now it's our turn. Titanfall's final move wasn't just brute force, it was humiliation. They released a data virus that hijacked every screen on Judgment in front of the entire Varuan command. A message began to loop. You thought you understood power, but you never understood fear. Earth sends its regards. Then Titanfall fired its core cannon directly into the station's brain. The explosion didn't just destroy Judgment. It imploded, collapsing in on itself, swallowed by its own artificial gravity. The weapon that was meant to erase Earth never got the chance to fire. The galaxy watched in silence. Footage, leaked from survivors, showed the final moment. Titanfall hovering like death, above a dying star. One word burned into memory: humanity. On Titanfall's bridge, smoke filled the air. Panels sparked. The ship had taken damage, but Mira stood tall. Status? Main cannon offline, core cracked, hull breached. Are we still moving? Yes, she smiled. Then we're still winning. Back on Earth, the news reached the public for the first time. Titanfall had saved them all. A single warship, a single crew, against a god-dash weapon at the Galactic Council. The remaining Empire stood and clapped. for the first time in galactic history. Every species gave honor to Earth. But Myra didn't care about applause. She stood beside her crew, gazing out into deep space, because while one enemy had fallen, another would rise. She knew it. They all knew it. But next time, Earth wouldn't send 20. Years had passed. The stars still shined. The galaxy still turned. But everything had changed. On the peaceful green world of Orn 5, a young alien boy sat beside his grandfather, staring up at the sky. "Grandfather," the boy asked, "why do people still fear Earth?" The old alien looked at the stars and smiled. "My child," he said, "it's not fear, it's respect. Earned the hard way." He pointed to the largest ship floating above the clouds, so massive it cast a shadow across the continent. "That is the Titanfall 2. And it's not here to conquer, it's here to remind the galaxy." "Remind us of what?" the boy whispered. The grandfather's voice dropped low. "That humans were never weak." On the command deck of Titanfall 2, Admiral Mira Voss stood once again in uniform. Her hair had silver streaks now. Her steps were slower, but her eyes were still sharp as blade edges. She looked out over the fleet. Over 300 Earth warships in perfect formation, stretching across orbit like a wall of fire and steel. Earth wasn't a newcomer anymore. It was the central power in the Galactic Union, and Titanfall 2 was its crown. Flashback. 20 years ago, the original Titanfall, damaged but alive, returned. Home to Earth after destroying the Veruans' Judgment Station, it was met not with cheers, but with silence. People were in awe, quiet, humbled. The ship was battle-scarred, with parts melted, broken, burned, yet it had survived, and so had its message. From that day, Earth changed. No more begging for peace. No more proving their worth. They were now the standard. Everyone else tried to match. Back in the present, the Galactic Council held a celebration. A new era of peace had begun. One with Earth as its guardian. The once powerful racists, the Veruan. The Hackeri, even the Cold Thal now stood beside Earth's diplomats, not above them. A monument stood. In the center of the council city, a metal statue of the original Titanfall. Rising out of a storm, facing the stars, below it one line was carved in 100 languages. "Strength is not given. Strength is remembered." But not everyone had forgotten the past. Deep in the void beyond mapped space, something moved. A signal activated. A vault opened on a dead world. Ancient machines older than Earth, older than even the first empires, began to glow red. The Forerunners had awoken, lost to time, silent for eons, now returning their target. Earth back on Titanfall 2. Soft alarm chimed. "Shane Alvis," Admiral read the report. "Unusual quantum echoes detected beyond Dark Sector 9. Admiral Mira raised an eyebrow. "Threat level," the AI answered. "Unknown, unreadable, but not natural." Mira smiled. It was the same smile she wore the day they launched the first Titanfall. "Prepare the fleet." Shay nodded. "Do we engage?" "No," Mira said. "We arrive. We show them what humanity has become." On Earth, inside a classroom, a child raised his hand. "Teacher, why didn't the galaxy destroy Earth when it had the chance?" Teacher, an alien from a once mighty race, paused for a moment before answering, "Because Earth doesn't fall. It learns. It adapts. And when it rises," he pointed to the window, where a group of Earth's warships flew by in low orbit, silent. "And powerful, it rises like nothing else we've ever seen." The fleet moved. Titanfall 2 led the way. Behind it, the Iron Wake, Leviathan, and Valhalla followed in tight formation. Together, they pierced the edge of known space, heading toward the unknown, heading toward whatever dared threaten peace. And the last thing any enemy would see was this, a flag, black and silver, with Earth's symbol at the center, and below it 2 words: "Never again." In Mira's private chamber, she stared at a photo of her old crew Titanfall's original team. Some had died. Some had retired. But their spirit had built everything that followed, she whispered quietly, just before battle. They laughed at our limits. We didn't have any. It's one ship. It would send a fleet.